Please be advised that the views and opinions of the host and guests do not reflect those of the station, the management, and its network. Face the Nation.
Magandang araw, Pilipinas. Ito po ang Face the Nation at sa programang ito, we will be joined by the Assistant Secretary of the Presidential Communications and our dear friend, Sir Chris Ablan. ASEC Chris, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Howell. Thank you very much for having me here in your show.
And it's been 10 years and you have accomplished so
For
much.
us, yes,
diba?
10 years.
Ayan. So, as a Chris, we're joined today by our General Manager, Ma'am Lorlyn, Ma'am Velarde.
Hello, good morning, ASEC. Thank you for joining us. There is so much information that we have to share with our televiewers this morning, and it's good that you can join us kasi alam mo, napakaraming detalye na dapat nilang malaman tungkol sa freedom of information. We've discussed before what freedom is information is all about, but I guess we have to go back and take a look at it again during this time of crisis, of pandemic, and how we can actually apply it further. Para naman din kasi ito sa ating mga mamamayan.
Pero bago yan, tanungin mo natin, as a Chris, how have you been since March 15? Kumusta ang pamilya, ang little girl mo, ang wife?
Yeah, we're okay, no? Like any family, no, na may anak na nag-aaral, well, their school year was cut short. And they had to continue studying at home. And then now summer na nila. So naging school na rin yung aming bahay. So nahirapan kami na to keep up, no, teaching her things and making her summer worthwhile kasi nga they're all stuck at home. So we're doing okay naman. In the office naman, we have our skeleton workforce and we try to cope up with this new normal.
Speaking of the new normal, si ASEC, grabe, 4 na beses mag-webinar, hanggang 8 beses na webinars, web meetings a day, 8 web meetings a day. How do you manage it?
It's very tiring, no? Nobody told us that, having online meetings would be this difficult.
Yes.
Before, I was telling my colleagues, in PCOO that before, if you have a meeting, there's a break in between meetings because you have to travel from one place to another. Today, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Right? After one meeting, you get scheduled another meeting and then dire-diretso and it's tiring.
Yes.
You can't have your coffee break, you can't have your cigarette break. I don't smoke, but sometimes that's out of the question already. You have to stay online the whole day. It's tiring.
Yeah, pero that is the thing now eh. That's what technology brings to all of us. Kahit malayo, malapit na din because of the technology. Pero it's totally different pa din talaga when you see them in person like what we are doing with this interview. We can do a lot of Zoom meetings all the time. Pero syempre, iba yung presence na nandito si ASEC kasama natin this morning.
And thank you for being here, ASEC.
No problem.
Grabe.
My pleasure. Meron naman tayong social distancing dito. May alcohol naman tayo. So we're
At
very,
lahat tayo ay negative.
Yes. And it's very difficult if you do interviews online because we're social beings and we take social cues from one another. And if I can't see you're agreeing with me, I don't know if what I'm saying is even relevant to you. So this person to person, I hope we have more. Kasi ang hirap yun eh. We lose touch of how to communicate with one another if we continue being online only.
Yeah, anyway, si ASEC pala makaka-relate to kasi meron siyang anak. Yun yung sinasabi dati eh. Yung mga anak mo, pagka sila ay laging nasa gadget, nawawala yung skills nila for social development, 'di ba? So, pero ngayon, dahil na din sa technology gaya ng Zoom or yun na nga sa dami ng mga conferences natin, pero lahat ito online, iba pa rin talaga ang magkita-kita tayo ng personal.
Totoo yan. And speaking of IT and access sa internet, yung mga bata, they consume whatever is in their news feed. Sometimes fake news. Dito papasok yung FOI.
Right.
So anong role ASEC natin?
Yung nga maganda sinabi ni GM kanina na important to discuss FOI again under COVID-19 and the new circumstances. Because when I was last time here
February
with Sir
ba yun?
Freddy Abando, it was before the quarantine. So
Yeah.
things were different.
Yes.
Today, we depend now on what we see online.
Yes,
We
totoo
don't
yan.
go to school, we don't go to office regularly, and so sometimes we're really solely dependent on online. And you have proliferation of a lot of fake news.
Napakarami.
So we really have to step up our campaign to tell people that if in case of doubt that they're not really sure of what they've read, no? For example, ilan na ba yung kaso ng COVID sa isang lugar? Ano yung mga requirements, ano yung mga bagong limitations for dining at a restaurant, so on and so forth. And people are inventing things. Might as well ask information directly from government. That's what we're trying to promote with freedom of information.
That's right.
If news or bali-balita ang nababasa nila sa social media at it involves government information and they're not sure, might as well visit foi.gov.ph, Howell, GM,
Totoo yan.
and verify kung talagang yung ba talaga yung balita.
Speaking of what's happening now, Asek, nakita ko nag-post ka about yung mga may inaresto.
Right.
So, and you have, given an advice sa mga netizens, huwag na munang kumain sa labas.
Right.
What was the story behind?
Yeah, so no, it happened over the weekend. No, there was a raid on in a restaurant because they violated social distancing rules. It's very important for people to know ano na ba yung pinaka-latest rules kasi it gets confusing eh. Pwede na bang pumunta ng restaurant? Hindi pa pwedeng pumunta ng restaurant. So these things people have to know kasi iba na yung normal eh. They can't assume na things were like this before eh. So kailangan talaga maghanda sila.
Totoo
And
yan.
so,
So these are the information that we have to remember all the time na dapat din talaga ipinaaalala sa atin palagi. Kasi with this new normal, katulad right now, meron tayong GCQ, MGCQ,
Right.
ECQ. So talagang medyo nakakalito din kasi.
That's right.
Diba?
It's not just misinformation or disinformation, GM. It's also over-information.
Yes.
There's just so much information you don't
That's
know now
very
which
true.
one is the latest. So that's where we go back to FOI again. If you get confused which is the latest issuance of the IATF, you can go on to our website foi.gov.ph and find the latest resolution.
Oo, siguro nga kasi yun na nga din sabi ni Asek, sobra sa information,
Totoo.
medyo nalilito yung mga tao. So, para siguro mas malinawan sila kasi alam mo napakarami ding agency, pag lahat yan kinuha mo, medyo malilito ka rin ba ano-ano ba.
Right.
So,
Saka
pumunta
nasa-stress
tayo
na
dun
yung
sa
tao ngayon
website
sa dami
nila.
ng information.
Oo.
Right.
Ayan. So, pag-usapan natin, what are the transparency challenges ng kinakaharap ng agency at ng mga Pilipino ngayon, pangkaraniwang Pilipino?
Right. So right now it's really access, no? We communicate now online, but a lot of Filipinos are not online. No, only half
Totoo
have
yan.
internet access. So yung kalahati, they're just still reliant on television and radio and print. And so our challenge is really to get down to the grassroots. Kasi no problem with Metro Manila because we have internet access and TV and cable. Pero sa mga probinsya, dun yung challenge. How to go to the last mile.
Okay. Howell, ang question ko kay Asek is that from the time na talagang lumabas na itong freedom of information, kasi before, alam mo, yung mga Filipino, medyo reluctant sila to know what the government is actually doing for them kasi it's being transparent eh, 'di ba? Pero nung nagkaroon ng freedom of information, lumakas ang loob ng mga Pilipino, may karapatan akong
Right.
malaman ang totoo. May karapatan ako na magtanong sa aming munisipyo, sa aming city hall na ano ba ang ginagawa nila, saan ba napunta ang pera. Nung inumpisahan nyo ang freedom of information, nung nagkaroon talaga ng dissemination na pwede na kayong magtanong, open ito sa inyo.
Right.
Marami ba kayong mga inquiries? Lumakas ba talaga ang loob ng mga Pilipinong merong naka-back up sa akin na po pwede akong magtanong at malaman ko ang totoo?
Yes, madami no ang nagtanong no. Ever since we put out the website foi.gov.ph, at present we have over 32,000 FOI requests.
Wow!
So that's pretty a lot no out of from 486 agencies. And they range from questions very relevant to you. Magkano ba yung budget ng aking town for this particular year. Kasi sinasabi ng mayor namin, ganito lang, yun pala. So humingi siya ng information from the DBM. Magkano na ba yung nirelease ng DBM sa town na ito? At nilabas ng DBM. So they were able to, they were able to compare ano yung sinabi ni mayor at anong sinabi ng DBM. They've also asked questions regarding contracts. No? They wanted to find out kasi we all know that there's corruption. Well, not all, but sometimes there's corruption in certain sectors in government. This gentleman requested for a contract in a PPP project, public-private partnership project. Dinisclose naman ng DOTR at ng DPWH. So you see citizens starting asking information from government, and government seeing that these people are taxpayers. They actually paid. They paid for the information we're collecting. So you have a right, GM, to ask for that information. So we are developing now a culture. It's not as widespread as we had wanted it to be, but it's growing through the years.
Galing, ano? Doon sa 32,000 na yon, meron na bang naipursu na kaso laban doon sa napatunayan or may probable cause na may corruption o may sinabi na, yun nga, mga binigyan ng project pero hindi ginamit ng maayos?
Yes, so some FOI requests have been used to file cases against government agencies. So yes.
So balik tayo doon sa pagiging servant leaders na ulit. Kesa yung them being bosses, they now have become the servant leaders of their municipalities and communities.
Right, because people think that freedom of information is just an extension of freedom of expression and a constitutional right. But it actually develops us in government to be servant leaders. Kasi minsan, if we're all siloed in our offices, feeling namin high and mighty kami. It takes a mechanism just like FOI to remind us na parang the people are watching us. At any moment, they can ask information from us. So we should be mindful of our actions. I'll give you an example sa PCOO when meron akong kasama noon na very controversial na assistant secretary and she was flying here and there. We will not name her. She's my friend. But we got FOI requests from saan ba nagpupunta ang mga ASEC ng PCOO. And the effect on me is that nakikialam pala yung mga tao. People want to know where I'm going. So I will be more mindful if I get an invitation going abroad because I have to be mindful that I'm actually using taxpayers' money when I go on a trip. So yung mga invitations before, I don't answer or go to everyone kasi alam ko tatanungin nila to, mapapahiya ako pag nakita yung listahan kung saan ako nagpupunta. So it makes me more mindful. It makes me a better servant leader.
Actually, that's something positive as well for the government officials. Yun ang sabi ni ASEC, it becomes, for them, mas iniisip nila, this is government, this is the money of the people because they are using their money to pay taxes para at least ma-provide pa din itong trips namin dahil government officials kami. And for the other government officials, at least they can be transparent. They can show na, ayan, tingnan nyo ang record, talagang malinis ako. The more that they can really prove to the people na they are doing their work properly.
So mas held accountable sila kayo ngayon bilang mga government officials.
And I'd like to believe that trust is strengthened between the citizen and government. When they have a right to ask us for information, we make ourselves more vulnerable to them. And vulnerability builds trust. So hopefully, through the years, mas strengthen yung trust. Kasi nawala yung trust na yan pag nangungurakot kami. So we're trying to rebuild that broken trust by saying, okay, at any time you can ask me information and I will answer you. And hopefully build that good working relationship.
Pero hanggang saan yung information na pwedeng hingin? Lalo na ngayon, pandemic. Pwede bang magtanong sila, sa barangay ho ba namin, ano po ang pangalan nung may COVID-19?
Right.
Yun ba yung mga information na pwede nilang hingin? Or meron tayong tinatawag na limitation?
Hanggang saan yung limitation natin, boundary, just to make sure. Kasi we will always say na we want to provide the real information. We want to give them the information. Kaya lang baka naman ito may negative effect. So hanggang saan ba tayo pwede?
Yes, so hindi forever ang FOI, Howell and GM. So hashtag hindi forever ang FOI. May hangganan. May limitasyon. No? Like any constitutional right, may limitasyon ng FOI. In this particular case, there are 9 exceptions. But I'll only highlight 2. The first one is regarding on data privacy. Like what you mentioned, can you ask kung saan ba nakatira yung may COVID-19 sa barangay? You can ask for the name, you can ask for the number of cases, but you can't ask for the detailed information. For example, saan ba siya nakatira, ano yung telephone number niya. Kasi tinatawag natin dun ay sensitive personal information protected by data privacy. Kasi pag dinisclose mo yung information na yan, maaring ma-ostracize mo yung tao. Pandirian siya ng komunidad. And then, imbes na makatulong ka, alam mo yun, magkaroon pa ng masamang epekto yun. So, meron tayong tinatawag na data privacy, hindi pwede yan sa FOI.
Oo. So that is a better understanding kung bakit ang inilalabas talaga ng DOH or any LGU for that matter is that ang nilalagay lang nila is from, like for example, from isang bayan, tapos yung age lang niya, yung ganyan lang ang mga, hindi talaga maibigay ang lahat ng impormasyon kasi we have to protect the individual as well.
May kaparusahan po ba doon? For example, kapitbahay nag-tip or gumamit ng anonymous account or fake account ng Facebook at sinabing, kapitbahay po namin.
Or
positive,
pinangalanan.
Pinangalanan, may picture pa. Mapaparusahan ba yung taong iyon?
Yes, may violation yan under the Data Privacy Act of 2012 because you have to protect the sensitive personal information of people.
So hindi ko sasabihin kung anong town, pero sa probinsya ng Quezon may ganyang nangyari.
Probinsya down to the town naman pwede. Pero hindi pwede na street address kasi meron tayong tinatawag na yung effect na pwede mong pagdugtong-dugtungan thing and then ma-identify mo din yung tao eventually.
Yeah. So, what about in Nueva Ecija? Kumusta naman?
Sa Nueva Ecija, ganyan din ang ginagawa nila. They just say kung saang bayan, kung ano yung age, yung kung saan ding lugar ng galing. Bago pa siya umuwi ng Nueva Ecija, kung bakit siya na-count as COVID case doon sa Nueva Ecija. Pero talagang tama si Asek, hindi talaga ibinibigay ang exact information. Yun na nga, just para maintindihan ng publiko kasi hindi inilalabas, dapat alam namin para maproteksyon na namin yung sarili natin. That is actually the reason. We have to protect them.
You have to
naman.
balance things also. The right to information and the privacy of persons, kailangan balansehin natin.
At dapat malaman niya ng 100 milyong Pilipino sa panahong ito. So, Asek, sinabi mo yung first is data privacy. Ano pa yung pangalawa?
Yung pangalawang napaka-importante, Howell and GM, is called the national security. We cannot disclose information that would put our national security threatened. Halimbawa, may nagtanong kasi sa AFP, sa PNP at saka sa DND, asan na ba yung mga tropa ng Pilipinas around Mindanao? Hindi pwede. Hindi ko alam kung sino nagtanong, baka mamaya Abu Sayyaf pala or what. We can't release that information because releasing such information may endanger the lives of our troops, our soldiers, and our policemen. So, hindi naman pwede. So, kailangan balansehin natin kung anong pwedeng malabas at ano yung kailangan protektahan under national security.
At mapipreempt yung tactical operations
That's
nila.
correct. May nagtanong pa, ilan po ba ang baril na nakatago sa kampong na to? Hindi pwede. You can find out how many ships we have, how many guns we have in general, but yung detalyado kung sa ilan na nakalagay, kasi malalaman na ng kalaban
Kasi in-expose mo na yung sarili mong yung mga tactics on how to protect yourself. Pag lahat ng impormasyon, ibinigay mo naman na.
Totoo yan. So dahil dyan, wow, very exciting itong first segment natin. We still have two. So don't you go away. We will be right back. We promise.
Face the nation. Face the nation.
Welcome back to Face the Nation. 100 plus days of being under the community quarantine and yet we're still alive. Maraming salamat sa pagtutok natin. Again, we're with Ablan, the Assistant Secretary of the Presidential Communication.
PCOO.
PCOO.
Yes, we always get confused, no?
Oo.
There was a time na my boss, Sec Martin Andanar, wanted to change our name. Because
bakit
every time he would go somewhere else, akalain nila he was the secretary of the DICT Communications. Tinatanong siya tungkol sa towers, sa satellites, sabi niya. And the name used to be the Office of the Press Secretary.
Sa Presidential Commission.
Follow up lang ako dun sa discussion natin earlier when it comes to COVID cases. Gusto ko lang malaman kay Asek ngayon, meron ba tayong mga inquiries online with regard naman dun sa pagpapamigay sa mga barangay?
Naging
Pati
malaking
ng
issue yan.
LGU.
Yes.
Kasi ang tanong dyan, alam mo, marami kasing nagko-comment. So just to be fair, pati naman dun sa mga barangay captain, kasi sinasabi na yung mga barangay captain, hindi naman nila ipinamigay lahat. Or
Saka nire-repack daw ulit.
Inire-repack nila or sa kamag-anak lang din ibinigay. Hindi nila ginastos lahat ng pera. And so goes dun sa sa barangay na which could be the LGU itself, sa office ng mayor, ganyan. Ang pinag-uusapan is, oo, nagpamigay pero kulang. Marami ba tayong mga questions na ganyan na pumapasok sa atin ngayon para malinawan talaga bang ito yung buong budget pero ang ipinamigay ito lang.
Yes, GM, no, to answer your question quickly, yes, the answer is yes. In fact, sa aming datos mula sa e-FOI portal na foi.gov.ph, we received 4,500 FOI requests during this period of March 15 to June 15. Of that 4,500, 40% were COVID-related. And the number one COVID-related FOI request we received are list of social amelioration program beneficiaries. Kasi for example, ako yung kapitbahay ko nakatanggap. Ako magkapareho lang kami, magkapitbahay kami, ako wala. Diba? I want to find out. Pareho lang naman kami ng kapansanan, no? Pareho kaming mahirap. But siya may SAP, ako wala. Number 2, dole AKAP assistance. So pangalawang social amelioration program naman mula sa DOLE. Camp assistance mula sa DOLE. Pang-apat is financial assistance for OFWs and the breakdown of COVID-19 cases. So the top 4 FOI requests that we've monitored are all about financial assistance from government because that's how interested people are. Whether you're an OFW, you're a vulnerable sector, or you're a regular small business employee, lahat interesado kung ano ba yung ayuda na makukuha nila mula sa gobyerno. And then going on to your second question is, syempre people are asking, iba yung sinasabi ng national government, pagdating sa local government, kulang-kulang. And that's how important transparency is. It doesn't matter how well GM, kung gaano kami ka-transparent sa national government, pagdating sa local government, pag tinatago nila, wala yun, di ba? Kasi sa mata ng tao, ang gobyerno ay isang massive institution lang. True. And so even if you're transparent on the top, pero dun sa baba hindi ka transparent, ang isip ng tao buong gobyerno hindi transparent.
And yun pa naman kasing nasa baba, sila talaga yung naka face to face nung mga tao na talagang nanghihingi. Sila yung nilalapitan, sila yung nakakakitang, ay si Kapitan, ito binigyan kami, hindi binigyan.
So meron tayong tinatawag na full disclosure policy under the DILG which covers the barangays, the towns, and the cities. And so may karapatan ng ating taong bayan na magtanong. O nag-declare na yung DSWD na nag-release sila ng certain billion o certain million for our municipality. Magkano ba talaga yung budget natin at ano yung breakdown? Then that's how they can conduct investigations. Kung anong sinabi ng DSWD o DBM o kung sino man yun, talagang pumunta sa city. So there has to be an action mula sa ating mga kababayan, no? Pag hindi tayo naniniwala, magtanong tayo and then pwede natin i-compare.
So ano yung prosesong ginagawa natin? At hindi ba na-overwhelm ang departamento ninyo, ang agency ninyo sa dami ng mga complaints, ASEC?
Fortunately, it's not my agency that answers the FOI requests. So we've trained FOI receiving officers and FOI decision makers amongst the 1,000 government offices. So they already know how to respond to an FOI request. Sometimes naman, more often than not, the website kasi is, more often than not, an information that you're interested in is also what GM is interested in. Our site is a public site, so you don't have to keep on asking questions. Meron kaming search bar. Maglagay lang silang COVID-19 Nueva Ecija. Lahat ng mga requests regarding COVID-19 on Nueva Ecija, lalabas na. So you don't need to ask anymore. Kasi baka may nagtanong na before at nasagot na rin. And so that is how we lessen the burden and the stress over the government agencies as answering those questions. So the procedure is, for example, nakatanggap ka ng grocery na ganto-ganto lang yung nakalagay na amount. At gusto mong malaman, yun ba talaga yung budget? You can ask the DBM, ano ba yung allocation na i-disclose, na nirelease nyo sa bayan namin sa Nueva Ecija? And then from then, pwede mo nang i-compare. And then you can hold your local government accountable. Kasi may ano ka na, may hawak ka na eh. Iba kasi GM, pag pumunta ka lang doon, oy, kulang to, dapat mas madami. Anong basihan mo? Ang basihan mo is nanggaling sa DBM. Nakatanggap kayo ng 200 million, ilang libo lang tayo dito, tapos ito lang yung pinamimigay namin. You have to explain. So you have to hold your local government officials accountable. Otherwise, they will get away with their shenanigans.
And what we allow will prosper. Diba? So, ang tanong ko lang, may mga chatbot ba kayo, speaking of technology, na ginagamit para yung mga FAQs, frequently asked questions, ay pwedeng masagot whenever a millennial would type in a question?
Right? So, this past 120 days, Howell, GM, you have to adapt to online and technology. So, nag-develop kami during the ECQ ng aming chatbot. Ang aming chatbot ay Frida. So, andun na rin siya sa Freedom of Information Assistant, parang gano'n. And so, yung mga millennials natin or Generation Z, Gen Z can actually already chat with our chatbot. But we're also on Facebook, no? So we've seen that people are still very dependent on social media like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So meron naman kaming mga FOI officers ready to answer their questions.
Wonderful. So yung timeline ng pagsagot ng mga concerned agencies or departments or government sectors, gaano kabilis? Once you forward, for example, a complaint sa isang barangay sa Zamboanga or sa Cabanatuan or somewhere in Quezon.
Under the FOI executive order, the procedure is 15 working days. So that's a little bit over 2 weeks. Medyo matagal yan. Medyo matagal yan para sa mga Gen Z natin kasi gusto nila instant information kaagad. We're able to work with government offices to reduce that 15 working days to an average of only 1 week.
Wow.
So on the average, government agencies are able to respond to an FOI request in 1 week. Pero often, there are some agencies na napakahusay na sa FOI that they're able to respond within the day. One example is the PSA, the Philippine Statistics Authority. Kasi maganda yung kanilang data records Kasi napaka-importante yung records management. It doesn't matter kung gaano kaganda yung front-facing apparatus mo, pero pag ang back-end mo, filing cabinet ka pa, hindi ka pa digital, aabutin ka talaga ng 2 linggo para ma-retrieve yung information. So we're working with agencies like the National Archives of the Philippines and DICT to improve the digital records management policy of government. So we're not yet there. Papunta na rin tayo doon na ang goal namin is pag nagtanong kayo, within the day, masagot ka na ng government agency. So sa ngayon, the policy says 2 weeks, but we've already talked with agencies to reduce it to a week on the average. But our goal is to have instant response.
Ang galing, ha?
Yes.
So,
pero ang under the Freedom of Information, ASEC, hindi pa ba dito nakalagay na, for example, sa mga barangay during this COVID pandemic na nagpapamigay sila ng mga relief, instead na yung mga tao na may questions ay kailangan pang magtanong sa EFOI or mag-email or tumawag, hindi ba mas maganda na inilagay na agad nila, inilabas na agad nila bago pa kasi kung transparency rin lang ang pinag-uusapan natin, why not immediately post it there na nakikita na talaga ng taong bayan, ito ang mga nabigyan, ito ang nagastos. Hindi ba kasama sa FOI yan na dapat immediately sana talagang meron ng information na nakalagay, hindi during the time lang na may mag-question, even for basic information.
Right, tama yan. That's what we call proactive disclosure. FOI kasi is reactive disclosure. You have to ask me something before I answer you. Proactive disclosure is already proactively volunteering the information. So we're very hopeful that because there's FOI, more and more government offices, including local government units, will just proactively disclose. Huwag mo nang intayin pa na magtanong siya, ilabas mo na yung information.
So ASEC, may tatanong ako sa'yo. Di ko alam kung nakarating sa'yo to. It's been circulating for a week now. Yung disbursement at, sa pagbili ng mga folders, mga office supplies, and listed na nitty-gritty details nakalagay doon. Folder worth 3,777, 1 dozen of folders. Yung mga ganyan, yung ballpen, I'm not sure kung nakarating sa'yo. Is that fake news? And ano yung ginagawa natin to stop it if it is?
Right. I haven't seen that actually, but ang narinig ko is that nilift off yan mula sa isang COA report. Because the Commission on Audit audits all government agencies from national all the way down to local government, and then they publish their reports. So I think dun nanggaling. So it's another mechanism for transparency and accountability. Kasi nga, taxpayers money ito eh. Karapatan ng tao para malaman kung magkano ba yung ginastos mo para bumili ng ballpen. Ballpen na 100, ano yan, Mont Blanc?
280 isang piraso, disposable ballpen. Totoo yan. So there's a chance that if it's from DBM, it's not fake news.
DBM or COA.
Or COA. So, any question about
Pero actually, isa din doon sa question ko related na lang sa mga pag-question yan, although the President already mentioned, kasi di ba sa DOH, meron ding mga lumalabas na mga questions na mahal yung pag-purchase nila, no,
Right.
mga kinakailangan nila for
Right.
PPE, for testing, for rapid test, or
Right.
swab test, mas mahal yung purchasing nila. But the President said, kasi binigyan niya talaga ng order ang DOH kung paano dapat mas mapabilis. So yun na nga lang din siguro, ang masasagot dyan ni Yusek is that they can always ask question naman
Yes.
sa freedom of sa EFOI
Right.
para mas malaman nila kung talagang tama ba yung naging purchase,
Right.
mahal ba talaga yung presyo na nabili nila compared to it was a rush purchase, dahil talagang ito yung pinakamatindi na part nung kinakaharap natin yung ECQ or during talagang height ng COVID-19. So for any questions, talagang pwede nilang iparating sa inyo.
Right.
Related to this,
Or at
madami ba?
at the very least, we can refer you to the government office that knows that information. So anything to do with procurement, you go to the GPPB-TSO. The GPPB-TSO is short for Government Procurement Policy Board
Ayan.
Technical Service Office.
Grabe
Napakahaba.
ang
no?
haba.
Napakahaba.
It's an office under the DBM and the head there is Undersecretary Weng Ruiz. So anything, so maganda yung kanilang website, the GPPB portal, i-type nyo lang yan sa Google, lalabas yung portal na yun. Nakalagay kung ano talaga yung presyo ng face mask, ng PPE, ng alcohol, and then makukumpara natin.
Pero dun
So
sa
ano
mga
y-
na-receive nyo, marami bang questions about DOH?
Right,
With this?
yes. Nung yung purchase nila earlier
Oo.
all the way up to the present, but hindi naman things aren't constant naman,
Yes.
GM eh. Iba naman yung panahon nung March and April
Yes.
kasi talaga meron tayong tinatawag na supply and demand,
Yes.
di ba?
Mm.
Since
Oo.
limited supply, syempre aakyat yung presyo.
Oo.
Pero ngayon na medyo nag-normalize na,
Kasi compare,
Mag-a-adjust
sabi
na
nga
rin
ng
siya.
DTI, it's talaga nung panahon na nag-quarantine talaga tayo, nung dineclare na ni Presidente, kahit talaga gusto mong maghanap ng mask, wala talaga.
talaga.
That's why they have to coordinate talaga dun sa mga nagpro-produce ng mask,
Right.
na gumawa kayo ng paraan para makapag-produce kayo ng maraming mask. Pero after 2 months, after 3 months, eto na, talagang
Oversupply naman tayo
hindi na
ngayon.
nililimitahan ang pagbili ng mask.
May
So,
oversupply na
oo,
tayo ngayon ng
that's
mga
why there's
masks
bumalik na
and
yata sa
alcohol.
normal
Oo.
yung
Totoo
presyo.
Oo.
In fact, yung mga resellers ngayon, yung mga private resellers, binagsak presyo na nila kasi overstock na sila ng masks
Right.
which they have procured in April and May.
So lugi na sila.
Yun, parang lugi na. Oo. So, Asek, babalik tayo. Sobrang bitin ng 2 segments. Huwag muna kayong aalis because we'll be right back for more. We promise that.
Face the nation. Face the nation.
Welcome back to Face the Nation. Again, kasama natin si Asek Chris Ablan. Welcome back, Asek Chris.
Thanks
At
sa
syempre si GM Lorlyn sa Velarde.
GM.
Ayan yung transparency na pinag-uusapan natin. Meron kayong town hall every Friday ba yun?
Right.
So pag-usapan natin yung virtual town hall to keep our netizens
Updated.
and abreast.
Kung ano ang ginagawa ng PCOO ngayon. Actually, sila yung pinaka-importanting ahensya.
Right.
Totoo
Kasi
ba yun, ha?
kailangan talagang mag-disseminate sila ng information, ano ba ang ginagawa ng bawat ahensya ng gobyerno
Right.
to make sure na yung mga tao protektado, nakaka-receive ng tulong, may ginagawa ang gobyerno during this time of pandemic.
Yes. So we try to update citizens on the proper information that needs to be disseminated. Kasi nga, sobrang daming mga ahensya. All agencies are trying to grab your attention and it gets confusing and overpowering minsan. And so the PCOO steps in para to say, ito talaga yung tamang direction natin, ito yung information natin.
Ayan.
And going to your question a while ago, we do have our virtual town hall. We have to adjust kasi dati po, we do conduct our out-of-town PCOO roadshows. Talagang pupunta kami sa probinsya para i-explain yung mga policies ng Duterte administration. But we can't do that now because of quarantine.
That's right.
So we've had to create this virtual town hall in Zoom, and we hold it every Fridays. And the one leading it is my colleague sa PCOO, si Assistant Secretary Mon Palupin. So every
Okay.
Friday po, 1 p.m., we will actually show our credentials po on our Facebook page. presidential communications, and then you can find out kung ano po yung topic namin for that Friday, sino po yung mga guests. Regular guests come from DSWD, DOH, and DILG. So last week, guest ako.
Oh,
Galing.
so paano ulit pumunta at paano makapag-participate? Is it the website and the Facebook or
Kasi
is
kung Zoom yan, magsa-sign up sila, di ba,
Right.
Asek?
So we have the Zoom meeting and we share kung ano yung credentials, ano yung meeting ID saka yung password. Kasi may maximum yan, di ba?
Yes.
Pag naabot na yung maximum, they can just watch it na lang sa aming Facebook page, Presidential
Live yun,
Communications. Live.
Galing.
So
Every
ano
1
ang mga
PM.
pinag-uusapan dyan? How long have you been doing this? Nakailang weeks na ba kayo?
Naka 8 weeks na last Friday, 9th week na this coming
So
Friday.
talagang inumpisahan to during quarantine period.
Right,
So,
dire-diretso na siya. So we update them. For example, we invite the assistant secretaries, undersecretaries from the DILG to update ano na ba talaga yung tamang policy, ano na ba rin ang mga information from the Department of Health, ano na rin ba ang tamang information from the DSWD. So those three agencies we always have as a guest sa aming webinar because that's what people want to find out at the end of the week. Kung ano-ano yung mga narinig nila ng Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, sa Friday we say, okay, ito talaga yung datos.
Ang galing. So, ang gagawin natin, not only are we going to invite the Filipinos to participate sa Zoom meeting, they should be supporting and watching it via Facebook. May YouTube live stream din ba kayo?
Yes, so we have another agency called Radio Television Malacanang, o
grabe.
RTVM.
Ang dami yung platforms, ha?
Oo nga, and under this administration talagang in-embrace namin ang social media. And so, if you've noticed, since 2016, up to the present, all announcements of the President have been live-streamed on Facebook and also curated in YouTube.
So ito
that's
nakikita
RTVM.
natin, pati yung mga OFW natin, nagpa-participate ba sila para
Yes.
malaman din nila? At
Oo.
yung mga nasa probinsya talaga.
Actually, na-appreciate nila kasi may limitation din naman yung regular free channels natin. May limitation din ng cable TV.
Yes.
And that's why social media is our bridge no para talagang umabot sa ating mga OFWs in Asia, Europe, and Americas.
So, ano naman ang ginagawa ng ibang ahensya?
Napaka-busy ng iba't ibang ahensya ng PCOO. Meron tayong tinatawag na Philippine News Agency o PNA. So bumisita sila sa pna.gov.ph if they want to find out the latest government news.
Ayun.
Pagdating naman sa lokal, Nueva Ecija, where are you
Quezon
from?
Province.
Quezon Province. Meron kaming tinatawag na Philippine Information Agency or PIA. So we also release local information and updates through our PIA platform. We're also active on radio. Now known as Radyo Pilipinas. Dati kasi ang tawag sa kanya Radyo ng Bayan. It's really under Presidential Broadcast Service and it's headed by DG Bong Aportadera. And so we also have our teleradyo.
Yes.
And so you can also look us up at Radyo Pilipinas on Facebook because we also have teleradyo over there. So, makakaasa po ang ating mga kababayan na sa abot kaya ng PCOO, whether radio, TV, print, or development communications, and online, we do try to reach them. But we are knowledgeable po, or we are conscious of our limitations. Hanggang saan lang naman yung kaya namin. That's why we rely on networks such as One Media Network and other stations to amplify. Kasi may limitation din kami. IBC, PTVs, nag-usap tayo
Yes.
offline. Limited din kami.
Yes.
So we really rely on our private sector partners as well.
But we're thankful, di ba? Kasi lahat ng Pilipino, kahit yung walang internet, naaabot ng impormasyon na makatutulong sa kanila. Radyo ang kaibigan ng bawat pamilyang Pilipino sa buong isla natin.
This is the time that we have to help each other out because this is a enemy that all of us have to battle. Hindi naman sa amin lang to, it affects all of us, and in order for us to beat it, we all need to communicate better with each other.
Oo, babati lang ako. Hi, DG Bong. Medyo matagal na kami hindi nagkita. So, anyways, kasi itong sinabi niya kaninang Radyo Pilipinas, nasa GSAT yan. Oo, kasi naman, syempre, sabi nga, pinag-usapan namin dati yan, no, bago siya ilagay sa GSAT, paano bang mas makakarating ang impormasyon ng gobyerno through radio? Kasi meron tayong mga radio channels na inilalabas sa GSAT para dun sa mga remote areas,
Yes.
mapakinggan pa rin nila kung ano yung ginagawa ng gobyerno. So,
At
yan, nasa
totoo yan.
GSAT.
At salamat
Oo.
din sa GSAT, sa mga satellite services natin, meron din silang access ng internet kahit
Oo.
saan mang isla sa ating
Yun na nga, kasi talaga ang
archipelago.
pinaka-importante dyan, paano ba natin, parang ginagawa ng PCOO, ginagawa nila lahat ng paraan para mas ma-reach lahat ng Pilipino,
Right.
saan man sila, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, sa mundo.
Totoo yan. Any short-term goal na gusto nyong ma-achieve bago magkaroon ng vaccine? May numbers ba kayo na tinitingnan? Kasi 32,000 ASEC, no? Yung sinabi nating concerns ng Pilipino. Are you looking at, say, attending to 500,000 increase about FOI by 2022?
Well, hopefully, our communication efforts succeed by plateauing yung number of COVID cases natin. No? Until we see that plateau, feeling namin na kulang pa ang aming push sa pag-communicate. Kasi may mga tao pa rin lumalabag sa social distancing rules. May mga tao pa rin na lumalabag pagdating sa paggamit ng face mask. So we really need to continuously step up our info dissemination para talagang makinig. Otherwise, until we have a vaccine, the numbers will continue to rise. So we really need to see that plateau.
Yun na nga. Kasi talaga, alam mo, sa panahon ngayon, kailangan nandyan sila to push and push. Kasi talagang kailangan maiwasan din natin ang mga fake news.
Totoo.
Nakakatakot kasi kung hindi tamang impormasyon ang lumalabas. Meron ka na nga pandemic, takot na nga yung mga tao kasi ang sinasabi, hindi tayo actually nag-flatten, tumutuloy siya sa pagtaas. Paano pa kung magkaroon ng mga fake news na talagang anlala na ng pagkahawahan ng mga COVID. So dapat talaga maging aware ang mga tao to always be informed with the right information. Saang ahensya sila dapat tumingin, anong Facebook page, anong government page, para hindi yung nabasa mo lang kaprasong sulat, headline, akala mo yun na lahat, pero hindi pala yun. Meron lang palang umimbento ng maling istorya, naniwala
Sinare na
na ang lahat sa dami ng nag-share. 'Di ba? So dapat talaga kailangan natin ang tamang impormasyon sa
Thank you po.
pamamagitan ng inyong ahensya.
So, ASEC, do you work with yung mga influencers natin, mga influencer vloggers and bloggers and personas in social media?
We try to with some TV personalities, pero for the influencers, hindi pa namin naabot yun, no? Wala kaming budget para ma-reach out sa mga influencers
baka mahal
namin.
ba?
Baka makuha po kami dyan.
Baka naman pwede silang to partner for free with
Sana.
you, no?
So sana sa platform na ito, kung may mga influencers
Ayan.
dyan na gustong tumulong sa ating gobyerno, please visit our Facebook page, FOI Philippines, and reach out to us and Presidential Communications. We'd love to partner po with you kasi alam namin malaki po ang inyong market. No?
At ang dami lang followers.
Yes,
by
at
the
mga
millions.
followers na hindi namin abot. So sana po makipag-partner po tayo. Thanks so much, Howell.
Oo, maganda
Pero
yan,
gusto
ASEC.
ko lang idagdag, ASEC, yung maganda din yung ginagawa nyo dati na halimbawa naglagay ito fake news. Ito yung legit news. Yung pinagko-compare nila. Kasi ang daming gumagamit ng mga logo ng mga ahensya. Alam mo naman ngayong panahon na to, napakadali mag-edit.
Yes.
Copy-paste, edit a bit. Tapos palalabasin, it came from this agency. So maganda din talaga yung mga inilalabas nilang information. Ito, fake news. Ito, totoo. Pero pagka alam mo, biglang tingin, pareho talaga. Nakakatakot din
Pero
talaga.
GM, sobrang hirap humabol So pag lumabas yung fake news, una, i-verify muna namin. Pagkatapos ng verification, gagawa kami ng SOCMED card. By the time na ma-release namin yung SOCMED card, nagkalat na talaga siya sobra. So we will do our best to fight fake news with clarifications. Pero at the end of the day, the burden is on all of us to be more critical thinkers. Kasi sometimes government cannot act fast enough para sabihin na fake yan.
Yes.
And so kailangan mas maging, we need to be more contemplative, more critical of what we see. So may responsibility na tayo ngayon as netizens.
ASEC, may napansin lang ako. Maganda yan, ano? Legit news, pero na-offend pa rin yung ibang government officials. So, anong payo natin doon sa mga na-offend sa number of cases? Totoo naman yung sinasabi, di ba? Ng mga...
We should not be onion-skinned, no? It comes with the territory of being a public officer. So, okay lang yan. So, sagutin na lang.
Kaysa maging to make personal attacks sa mga doctors natin, di ba? So, 3 minutes, the last 3 minutes of our show is called The Takeaway. Anong gusto mong iuwi ng mga Pilipinong nanonood ngayon, ASEC?
Please, no, if you want to get proper information on government efforts to fight COVID-19, please visit our website, official website, covid19.gov.ph. For everything else, you can always ask us on Facebook, FOI Philippines and Presidential Communications. And if you have any questions, magtanong lang po tayo sa foi.gov.ph.
Ayan, how responsive po ang ating
Sa Facebook, we're very fast. 96% response rate
ang
kami.
galing, ang galing.
Kung ano yung tanong, pati reklamo laban sa isang opisyal, kami na rin tumatanggap. Hindi po kami yun. 8888 yun. Iba po yung 8888 sa EFOI.
Sa pino-forward nyo na lang sa kanila.
Yes, we do.
Ilan yung tao nyo, ASEC?
We have 30 people in the office.
30 hardworking people.
Yes.
So, dapat palakpakan natin ang ahensya ng FOI. Natutulog pa ho ba kayo?
Oo naman. So magkikigreet lang ako sa aking mga
Yan.
kasamahan sa
Ayan.
FOI-PMO. Hello kay Tristan, Casey, Eden at sa lahat ng bumubuo ng FOI-PMO. Hello po sa aming secretary, ang mabuting kalihim ng PCOO, Martin Andanar.
Ayan,
Oo, ako din babati
Secretary.
din ako kay Secretary Andanar kasi mas maraming beses na siya ang bumabati sa atin pag
Oo
laging
nga eh.
handa na. So ngayon naman, ito na ang pagkakataon.
Sa laging handa press
Oo,
briefing namin.
Oo, lagi siyang bumabati. So ngayon naman, ikaw ang aming binabati, Secretary Andanar.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Andanar, sa pagpayag na makarating po sa amin dito si ASEC Chris Ablan. At binabati natin si PCJ. Hi, Sir Philip. At maraming salamat. So, what about you, Ma'am Lorlyn? You want to say something?
Yes, I would just like to say thank you very much. Napakaganda ng ating naging talakayan
Bitin,
ngayong
ano?
araw na to. Napaka-importante na makapag-provide tayo ng mahalagang impormasyon sa ating mga mamamayan. Kaya basahin muna nating mabuti, intindihin muna mabuti lahat ng ating nakikita. Kasi we just wanna make sure na tama yung impormasyon na inyong nalalaman. Lalong-lalo na sa lahat ng ginagawa ng gobyerno o sa nakikita nyo sa inyong mga kapaligiran ngayong panahon ng pandemya.
At sa panahon ng pandemya, ang panlaban natin sa takot ay tamang impormasyon, legit information from our government. So again, maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat, ASEC Chris Ablan.
Thank you for having me, Howell.
At maraming
GM.
Maraming
salamat,
salamat.
siyempre, sa co-host kong napakaganda, Ma'am GM Lorlyn.
Thank you, Howell.
At with that, maraming salamat. Don't you go away kasi after this, may panibagong programa to keep up building the Filipino people. Maraming salamat at mabuhay ang Pilipino.
Face the nation.